that we receive as a conference, this is how it's then distributed. 5% goes to the union, 5% goes to the division, 20% goes to the general conference, 1% goes towards union development, and then finally the conference remains with 19%. Are we together? 50% local church, 5% union, 5% division, 20% general conference, 1% union development, 19% East Zimbabwe Conference. So this is how the funds within the church are distributed. So now we get into our report. And I will save you maybe with the preliminaries and the preamble, and we will straight away get into our figures. So within the last 3 years, this is how our tithes and offerings were standing. So I want you to have a look and bear in mind when we are talking of tithe, remember we remain with 60%. So in 2021, we collected 1,482,735. Maybe just for clarity, our financial statements that you received, they are presented in Zimbabwean dollars. But what we have done as I present the income, I've deliberately split the two so that we have the context of how much US dollars we're receiving and also the context of how much Zimbabwean dollars we are receiving. So in 2021, we collected 1,482,735 dollars. In 2022, we collected 2,660,421. And then in 2023, let's also bear in mind it's covering January up to September. It's January to September, which is 9 months. And so far we have collected 2,705,829. And you will realize that in terms of our budget for the year 2023, we had set that we will collect about 2,816,000. So bear in mind, 60%, 40%. We go to our Zimbabwean dollars, 2020, maybe before I go there, still on our US dollars, we are probably delighted to say when you look at those figures, the progression is incremental. And what does this progression mean? In 2021, our average was sitting at 123,561. Then we move over to 2022, we moved to 221,701. And I'm happy to say for 2023, our average is currently sitting at 300,647. But as we begin our process of collecting our tithes and offerings through our stewardship department, our target is for us to be able to be self-sustained and be able to collect up to about 500,000, which will help us to be able to do more. So we go to our Zimbabwean dollars. In 2021, we collected 381,184,374. 2022, 357,277,740, and then in 2023, 1,057,704,936 dollars. So this is what we have got, and we have seen that for our average in Zimbabwean dollars, we are collecting an average of 61 million per month. But for those who know, if you calculate that 61 million, if you divide by, let's say, 6,000, it's already probably approximately about 10,000 or less. Then we go to our US dollar offerings. For our US dollar offerings, 2021, we collected $173,152.93. 2022, we had $379,909. 2023, $639,785 dollars and 38 cents. So if you look at our offerings, they are also on an incremental trajectory. So what we have actually observed is in 2021, the ratio between our tithes and our offerings was at 11.7%. Then in 2022, it was at 14%. And then in 2023, it's now currently sitting at 23%. And it is our hope and prayer that when it comes to our offerings, we are probably able to try and increase this section of our income, because our offerings are the ones that help us in terms of development. If we want to have more schools, if we want to have more clinics, this is where the funding for these developments comes from, as well if we want to build more churches and to ensure that they are complete. So you will also see that for Zimbabwean dollar offerings, 2021, $11,044,859. 2022, $478,899,976. And then in 2023, we are currently sitting at $160,113,757. But I also want to add a disclaimer on this particular item. If you look at on the report or in the booklet, for 2022, there was a typo and it was entered as 4 billion. And so it also distorted our graph, but this is the correct one, which I have presented. We'll also share it through. And then we also have our expenses. Remember at the beginning I said our financial statements are denoted in Zimbabwean dollars. So for our expenses, I deliberately put them in Zimbabwean dollars as per our audited financial statements for 2021 and 2022. And then for 2023, it was deliberate according to September 2023, which is the unaudited financial statement. So in terms of the pictorial images, you'll see that in 2021, bulk of our finances went towards employee-related expenses, and then followed by travels. These travels are inclusive of those at the office as well as our district pastors, and then followed by our programs, which is our seminars and workshops. And then we also have admin expenses, we have office expenses, and then plant and equipment. And then in 2022, the figure dropped to 51% for employee related, and then our travels are sitting at 17%, and then our programs 8%, and then administrative expenses 17%, and then we go down that way. And then currently, as it stands, our employee-related expenses are sitting at 50%, and we have 21% going towards travels, and then so far we have 14% which has gone towards our programs. And then when we also go to our working capital and liquidity, you'll see that for the years 2020, maybe for this one I'll explain that the recommended working capital is 6 months. The recommended liquidity is at least 3 months. But you also be aware that we are also operating within a hyperinflationary environment. And this has its own challenges, especially in terms of liquidity. So in 2021, our working capital was sitting at 5.9 months. Liquidity 1 month. And then in 2022, our working capital was at 7.3 months, liquidity 1 month. And then our working capital, sorry, I think there was a typo there. For 2022, the liquidity was actually 3 months. And then for 2023, our working capital 3.6 months, and then our liquidity is at 0.4 months. And then when it comes to leadership, in 2021, we had a treasury seminar, which was facilitated by our union. This was meant for our treasury personnel. And then in 2022, we also had one in Mutare. And then in 2023 as well, there was one which was conducted in Mutare. And then I deliberately skipped this one, which represents our audit report. We'll go to our spiritual growth. In terms of spiritual growth, in 2023, we saw the introduction of our ACMS treasury module. We managed to do trainings that involved 580 churches. But to date, we are happy to say those that have implemented and are using this system, we are now sitting at 435 churches. We do understand that there are a lot of challenges with regards to this ACMS, and we are trying to see how best we can have solutions that can counter the challenges that we have met with this area. One of the challenges has been equipment. Most of our treasurers do not, actually most of our churches cannot afford computers, and this we find some of the treasurers are actually using their personal equipment. The other challenge that we've also met is the issue of network in general. To say there are other places where network is a challenge, and that one, it's also one of the issues. And then finally, like has been highlighted through our executive secretary, there's the issue maybe of the ability to use the system and all, but we are happy to say these challenges, we'll look at them. There are some which are probably beyond our control, especially in areas where there is no network. We basically, maybe there is nothing that we can do about that. But in terms of where coverage is available through our union and our division, we are actually working to ensure that perchance the system be zero rated, so that as long as there is a particular network, be a particular service providers that we are engaging, your Econet, Net1, perhaps if they are there, if we zero rate, then people can access the system for free as long as the network is there, but then we cater for the charges that will ensure. But maybe while we are also still there, we have seen that because of the coming in of ACMS, there's also been a gradual increase in terms of the participation of our membership in terms of tithes and offerings, and I'm sure we are all receiving our receipts, which also show a historical background of what has been collected over the past months. And then we move over to our function of our infrastructure. In terms of infrastructure, as has been highlighted in the President's report, as a conference, we have managed to purchase 2 machines. Our vision wanted to purchase 3, but for these past 2 years, we were able to purchase 2. And the first one was a brick molding machine, and then the second one was a IBR making machine. And I would like to say, to date, we have had some churches and schools benefiting from our IBR machine. And then I would also want to highlight to say throughout, we distributed a figure of over 700 bags of cement in a combination of our schools and our churches. And then while looking at infrastructure as well, we have distributed roofing sheets, which amount to 3.4 kilometers. So 3.4 kilometers of roofing sheets have been distributed in our institutions, be it churches and our schools. I know when we speak of this, an issue of criteria may come. For now, we had used the criteria of the requests that had come to the office, but I know we were not able to attend to all the requests. The list is not conclusive, but all the churches that submitted their requests are filed and we have them at the office. And those that are going to come into the office will find the list of those that have not benefited. So you'll see that we have our churches that we have assisted, and then we also have campsites that we assisted in the year 2023. These are campsites that came to us for help and assistance, and we used an approximate figure of up to 50,000 that we distributed to some of the campsites that came that had challenges. But let me be quick to say these funds were not given to them perpetually. The 50,000 that we gave them was to assist them, but it was more of a loan so that they could be able to facilitate the camp meetings and everything is in order, and then they are supposed to pay back that amount. And then we also have some churches that we also gave loans so that they could be able to facilitate some of the sticking issues, be it land issues, be it the building, so that they can be able to complete their sites. And then we also have our clinics as well, where there were boreholes that were drilled, and then we also have, I think, our schools with cement and all. And then in terms of infrastructure, I deliberately put this one under infrastructure. While this may not be the infrastructure of the conference, but we facilitated for our pastors to own houses. And when we are saying we facilitated, we are not saying we are paying for them. They are paying for themselves through the income that they are getting. But what we are simply doing, we are facilitating. We negotiated for a deal, a tenure that is comfortable for our pastors with regards to the remuneration that they are getting. And we've managed to secure a place where 115 shell units are going to be distributed. And as we speak, there is one unit which is already complete. And then we also had 5 complete slabs. We have boxes, about 5 as well. And then there were other foundations which have been dug and footing has been put, which are also in the process of construction. And for all these places, we managed to distribute 31 of the 115. So 31 of our workers are now aware of where they will receive their shell from. And then I'll conclude this presentation by looking at our projects. When we started this initiative, we started by doing these projects so that we could be able to conscientize ourselves of the resources that we have, which we were not utilizing. And when you look at these harvest figures, you will see that God has been blessing us, and He continues to bless us. In 2020 to 2021, which was our very first season, we planted 10 hectares of maize at Nyauni High School, and we harvested 85 tons. In 2021-2022 season, we planted again 10 hectares of wheat, but unfortunately for this one, we paid what we call school fees. We learned the hard way, and we only managed to harvest 10.5 tons. And then in that same season, we planted 24 hectares of maize at Nyauni, and we harvested 175 tons. In 2021, 2022 as well, we had a trial project for layers, which was giving us an average of 20 crates per day. and we have actually learned some lessons from that. And for us to move forward, I think we need to expand this project so that it can yield more results. In terms of our 2022-2023 season, at Nyambiri, we planted 10 hectares of maize and we received 71 tons of maize. At Nyauni, we planted 20 hectares of maize, we got 166 tons of maize. And then we also had a trial run. We planted 5 hectares of soya. We also learned many lessons, and one of them was that you don't use a planter for maize to plant soya beans or sunflower. That was one of our biggest lessons. That's why we managed to get 4 tons for our soya and 4.5 for our sunflower from an average of 5 hectares. So I've already talked about the equipment purchase. So for now, my report will end here. These are basically our highlights which have been derived from our reports which we have. I'll give this opportunity to our auditor from GCAS to come through and give us the audit reports for our past 3 years, and then we'll be able, and let's also bear in mind that 2023, we are still within 2023, and we are yet to be audited as the year is not ended. So I'll ask him to present the audit report, and then after he has presented, we will move one report which will encompass all our treasury issues. Thank you.
Good afternoon, the Church of God. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm coming from the General Conference Auditing Service. General Conference Auditing Service, which is called GCAS or simply GCAS. So if you hear me saying GCAS, I mean General Conference Auditing Service. This is our logo. I'll explain a bit about it with what we do. As you can see, this is our letterhead. I'm sure as Adventists, you have just seen that it's made after the manner of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. You see that seventh panel at the end. Down there, you see there's a logo for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. So what it means is we are affiliated to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Okay. Then someone will say, how then are you independent to then audit the books of the Seventh-day Adventist Church? It's a good question, right? So it's actually disclosed in our opinion, in our reports. That fact is disclosed. It's important because in appearance, we are not independent in appearance. But in terms of executing our duties, we are independent. What it means is we are separate from management, right? We do the work of an auditor. So what do we do? Let me tell you our mission statement. As GCAS, we serve God by delivering excellent auditing services to the Adventist Church worldwide. Underline the word excellence. Okay. So we are about over 300 audit professionals from 45 different countries. So I'm coming from Harare office. In Harare, we are 9 auditors. All of us, we are chartered accountants. So this is how GCAS is in terms of excellence. We deliver excellence to the auditing, to the church. So those colors you are seeing, the green, the blue, the yellow, they represent our values, which are integrity, that's the first one. Respect, professionalism, and efficiency. So I will go to our report. So for those who want to see the detailed description of our disclosure of independence, I'm sure you've seen it, or you can see it in the reports that have shared to you. So this is a report to the constituency. When we have done our work, okay, let me just show you this slide. This is our audit process. So when we are done with our work, there's a portion of the last one, the reporting. We report to governance first. What is governance? This is your EXCOM, right? So we made this report to the EXCOM. So in other words, we went through all those processes, those 6 processes, and the report has been presented to the executive committee. Now we are reporting to the constituency, which is you. Okay, so this is the core page of our report. So this is the executive summary. I will talk about the scope in brief, in materiality, and then I go to the results. Okay? Our scope, we audited the financial statements, right? That is our scope. Ndopatakangira tikagumira. Zvakare takaconsider the policy review, policy change, right? So we conducted an audit for financial statements. Okay, we have got 5 financial statements. As you may know, I want to name them so that it will help us on the results. Okay? We have got the statement of financial position, statement of financial activity. That's what we call it in church, financial activity. I know in the corporate we can call it financial performance, income statement, profit and loss, but in church we say statement of financial activity. And then statement of changes in net assets, statement of cash flows, and then notes, right, to the financial statement. So as we do our audits as GCAS, we audit according to international auditing standards, right, adopted by the Standard Adventist denomination. So those standards require us to plan, to perform an audit, to obtain a reasonable assurance whether the financial statements are free from material misstatements. Okay, so our work as an auditor is to give assurance, which is not absolute, but reasonable, right? In other words, we express an opinion on the financial statements. So Pastor Njov was saying, question number 1. So the question number 1 to the auditor is, did you express an opinion? That's the question that you must ask an auditor. Okay, so we also consider materiality. So it's important, I'm sure the lawyers that are here, the word materiality is also a legal term, right? It means that in audit, it means that it's the size of misstatement or omission that could be expected to influence the decisions of the financial statement users. You are also part of the users, right? So we based our materiality on income, which is tithe. We believe that tithe is so important to the users, which includes you, right? If you have seen, the CFO was started with the tithe, so it means it is important to you. So we based our materiality on income, which is tithe. So here are the results. So I will share with you the results, and then I will state or explain briefly the basis of our opinion. Okay, so these are the results that I hope we are seeing. Okay, so the CFO presented up to 2023. As GCAS, we audited up to 2022. Okay, so 2020, 21, 2022. So as you can see, the opinions that are there. Okay, so I'll start with 2020 results. It was a split opinion By split opinion, I mean we express an opinion in various parts of the financial statements. So, on statement of financial position, it was an adverse. On statements of financial activity, change in net assets and cash flow, it was a disclaimer. Okay, I'll come back to this. Let me finish off with the policy compliance report. As you can see, policy compliance report has been non-standard throughout the years. Okay, when we are considering the policy compliance, there are two options of the reports that we present. Either it's a standard or non-standard. So policy is a bit strict in that when an auditor notes at least one non-compliance, one material non-compliance according to the thresholds that are there in the policy, it's automatically a non-standard. So it's a bit strict. So it has been non-standard for over the years. Then our basis for disclaimer in 2020, it was because 2019, we were not engaged to audit 2019. So what it means is the closing balances for 2019 will enter materially into 2020. So we then disclaim the statements of financial activity, change in net assets, and cash flow. Then our basis for adverse opinion for financial position in 2020 and all the financial statements in 2021 and 2022 is the same. I will repeat. The basis for our adverse opinion for statement of financial position in 2020 and all financial statements from 2021 and 2022, the basis is the same. I will explain our basis. Okay, so we express an adverse opinion when we note misstatements that are material and pervasive. I have defined materiality. I will define pervasive. Pervasive, it means they affect many parts of the financial statements. So, what is it that caused the misstatements in the all financial statements? I will explain our basis. Okay, as I explained, some may want to read this one. These are types of our opinions, the possible opinions, but what is relevant to you is the adverse in the disclaimer. So our basis for adverse is that there was non-compliance with International Accounting Standards number 8, number 21, and number 29. Okay. As you may be aware that in 2018 or 2019 around there was a change in our currency as a country, right? Which environment which EZC conference operates in. So when there was a change of currency from USD to which currency? Okay, to ZWL or RTGS or Nostro. You remember when we wake up in the morning to say the balance that you have in your bank is no longer USD, but it's what? Bond. So what the standards require is that the financial statements must now be presented in ZWL. So ZWL became and is still a functional and presentation currency for all financial statements in Zimbabwe. So our basis for IS8 is that as soon as the currency changed, the financials were supposed to be presented in ZWL, which was not the fact, which was not the case. Also, since then, we entered into what we call hyperinflationary environment. So the standards require that when you are in an inflation environment, you have to adjust the financial statements for inflation. So the financial statements since then have not been adjusted for inflation. So that is the basis. So we, in our view, in our opinion, this affects many parts of the financial statements. All right. Our basis for IS 21, which deals with currents, once again, it also deals with exchange rates. As you have heard from the CFO, the conference receives money in multiple currencies, including US dollars. So these figures must be translated or converted into ZWL as required by the standard. So in our view, the spot rates or the exchange rates that were used to translate these figures are not accurate in our view. That is basically the basis of our opinion, adverse opinion for the past few years. So this is the executive summary of our report. So the red robot, as you all know, red means red. If it was maybe a qualification, would put an orange, an amber. If it was an unmodified, would put a green. So I believe I have tried to summarize our findings, and from our presentation as GCAS, I hope it gives you assurance, as our mandate is to express an opinion, to give assurance, a reasonable assurance to you as the users of the financial statements. I thank you.
So at this point, I'll move, Mr. Chair, that we accept the financial highlights as well as the audit reports as presented.
Thank you. The financial highlights have been presented, and also the GCAS audit report. It has been moved. Anyone to second? It's seconded. We now calling for comments, observations. We do our normal. We come up front and then we see how many wants to say something. Thank you. Kindly walk up front. All right. Yes, in the order of how old you are. I'm sorry. Thank you so very much. Just come, all of you who want to speak, so that at least we know. And then, until you know our strategy, if you've seen that, you can kindly say, I'm sorted, and then we move forward so that we don't spend a lot of time. They are moving, they are coming. Okay. All right. I see. You know, I wish it was a call and you are coming like this. You know, I'm a pastor. Yes, yes, thank you. All right. Thank you so very much. We are good. I think our last person, Elder Ngadziko, or Elder, or the other person is coming. All right. You are the last. Okay. Go ahead, Mama.
Maskati vana vamwari tinotenda namareports atiri kuwana. Ndangotarisa hangu report dzatakapiwa napresident secretary, then the finance people. Tinotenda basa rakanaka ravari kuita rokuvakira maretirees, mapastors edu dzimba. My worry was, my query was, do they all want to be in town? Vachembera vogara muno, and yet in the end we are going to tizira kumaruwa. Why won't they have an option of having a home built kumisha yavo? Panokuti munhu ari kuBorodale waretire unoitei ikoko. Saka that was my worry. Do they really want to go there or makavati vaende ikoko? And that was my worry, because I would rather be in the quiet area than be in the town. That's my question.
Thank you very much.
I think we can actually cancel that one. And
Thank you very much, our CFO, on the financial report that you have given us. It was well articulated, but I've got areas where I need you to look at, especially the issue of evangelism, where you said you budgeted for 1%. I think my heart is bleeding because the core business of this organization, Seventh-day Adventists, is none other than the Great Commission, which you were chosen as the CFU of this organization. Your mandate is to ensure that evangelism reaches where it is supposed to reach. Also, on the issues of loans that you have talked about, we are surprised to hear from you. This was not made public. I think the confidentiality about this whole thing, I think next time try to cascade it down to churches. Such churches are aware what is happening at our conferences. Also, the other one is, what then criteria did you use to give loans to certain churches that you have mentioned in your report? I think, and I've also noted our auditor was talking about a non-compliance on the audit report. If I may ask you what have been done to ensure that there's compliance next time, I thank you.
Thank you. Next. Our last person is my elder. No, it was elder. Yeah, can you lift it? That's our last person. And we are going to entertain and up to that, so that at least we maintain order. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for the report that you've given us. Unfortunately, my highlights. I think that's not adequate for us. We need to consume the data in terms of what the financial statements are looking at. We've seen the auditor's report, but the report you are giving us are highlights. We want to introspect, to see where our challenges are. For instance, our asset register, where are we? Have we consolidated everything? I don't know whether these are financial accounts include the institutions, or it's just the head office or the conference. Those are issues that we need to know. And we think in previous meetings, we've asked for this information. So we are not seeing it coming. It causes us to worry. And our worry is exacerbated by the materiality issues that have been mentioned, where issues, non-compliance. So my issue right now is if we have another session like this, let's have the statements. We want to see them. There are a lot of accountants in this place. I think the whole host of people are standing here want to ask about those things that you didn't give us. They say that the devil is in the details. We would like the details.
All right. The first point is I want to appreciate the executive for all the reports that has been given. They're quite detailed. Maybe as a reminder, when we got 5 minutes, let's save the president's video. I think because of these other interesting reports, we might be interested to watch it. Then on number 2 is on the future reports, probably. We should add some variances, percentages, or even the quantum in value, so that we don't work in our minds what's going on. Then I also appreciate the split on US dollars in ZWL. Thank you for that. My input is, let's add the income and the expenditure in USD in one page. And let's see also the income and expenditure in ZWL in one page. I understand the financial statements will be consolidated, but for information purposes, let's have a clearer picture of everything in its own currency, so that this information is clear. Then number 3 is on the loans. I just want to say we are one of the beneficiaries for the loans in terms of who been assisted for Mandela High School. It's a 24 hectares where we requested for loan from the conference to get the clearance and the offer letter from council. So we are also still working on it to raise the required funds of about 300,000. So we still have a long way to go. Then welcome to agriculture on the yields.
All right, thank you so much for the report. I only have about 3 questions or clarifications that I need to air out. The first one, you highlighted the environment that you are operating in, where you indicated that we are in an inflationary environment, and everyone knows that. I'm sure some inflows, we are in local currency, and there are possibilities of excess liquidity. So my question is, what investment options do we have as an institution to preserve value, especially for local currency? At one time, takamboita discussion to involve our union to make use of our pastors' retirement fund, considering my huge balances anenge ari muma accounts iwayo. Try to develop kuita rope in project yechidzimwana clinic as a way of preserving those huge balances. So I think it's a conversation that needs to be revisited so that we preserve value in local currency. Then lastly, Tanzania report from our auditor, General Conference Audit Services. It seems they only audit our conference. So my question is also conference, does it also audit my local churches? At one time, Takambonzo chinzi ma conference chaenda kuma local churches to do my audits, but hapana watakamboona since then. Thank you.
Maskati yakanaka. Ndine zvinhu zvokwana kuita zviviri, bandisati tapinda pazviri ndoda kungotenda nema-reports atawana kubva kuvatungamiriri vedu pamwe chete nema-auditors. Number one, comment yandiri kuvhunza kuti mubvunzo or clarity yandiri kusika inyaya yakadirectwa kuma-auditors edu kana kuti vakaapointa kuti izvoni GCAS tonzwisisa kuti it's an organization within the organization, the church. So bvunzo wangu ndokuti the independence part of it, how independent are they to audit their peers in the same organization, Seventh-day Adventist Church? Then the second one is the issue, the basis of their disclaimer or their opinion rather, to say it was pervasive. In other words, the issues were material. So the question is, how far did it affect the report such that it will affect our voting concerning to adopt the financial report? Those are the questions that I have.
Right, thank you very much. I've got a few contributions. We would like to thank the system for having a facility to let churches access some loans. Our recommendation would be, let's have an objective, deliberate strategy to equitably allow members to access the facility. Through other circles, kuti conference yeta ina mari yekuita ma projects. What is Tony Lindy yakawandisa, so we cannot support like my projects. Kodu kuti nechikoro chataitoda mari, but utanga kuzvinzwira pano. Let's have an objective, deliberate facility. You could make sure that everyone reaches out than to have a walk-in system. Let's reach out to the people. And also, pane issue ye JICAS, panzi non-compliance up, ne adverse. I would like to question kuti, non-compliance yasho, was it avoidable or it was not avoidable? We know when some of these things happen, we make the pestle analysis whereby some things are caused because of the external situation in which we are operating. Then other things happen because of the internal weaknesses that the system has. So may you answer us there. Was this non-compliance internal or it was unavoidable? Thank you.
Firstly, my appreciation to your presentation, sir. Thank you. I have two issues. Employee-related costs, running through the 3 years, of course, they were on a sliding scale, but over 50% in each of the years. I just want to ask from the layman's perspective, is that the normal thing that in the church running setup, the employee-related costs should gobble that percentage? Okay, number one. Number two, there is a page that you flipped through. Unfortunately, I don't have the report, which was summarizing about the liquidity issues and the working capital. I think as a way of reporting, that is very, very key for decision makers who are here. What does it mean? May you please zoom down. If you say you have 0.4 months in terms of liquidity, what does it mean? It might even invoke positive reaction from the stakeholders. If you go back to that page and put it in simple ABC, simple accounting rudiments for the sake of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to make just two contributions here with regards to the CFOC report. The first one is on beneficiaries of BRIC and IBR machines. I would have thought a clarification would have been made in terms of qualification for churches to benefit. We did not yet. And what is expected of them in terms of finance? Do we buy or at a discounted rate, or are they given completely free? Because I believe many churches are expecting to benefit from this. So we need a clarification of the criteria to benefit and also what is expected from us. Then the second one is on the housing units for the retiree pastors. I think this is a very ambitious project and it's very welcome. But my question is, if I'm quoting correctly, there are some 150 units which are currently available or which have been acquired or are in the process of being acquired. My question is on continuity, taking into account the number of pastors that we have in our conference. Will we be able to continue this into the unforeseen future? Thank you so much.
Masikati, zvimwe zvataurwa, but ndaida ngokubvunza kuti amuna kuzotitaridza consolidated handiti tinoona kuti maaccounts edaramira sei zvikoro. Ndinoziva contribution inobva kuzvikoro zvedu pane vanoita mabusiness achitorana profitably, ndokunoita zvikoro zvakawanda. So zvikoro zvedu zvatinazvo maclinics, kana tichiita zvemahara tizivewo kana pane vana vachibhadhara mafees inopererako here. Because ndichitarisa panapa ndiri kuona pane zvikoro zvakawanda, zvikoro zvakapiwa mabhegi ecement, it's part of development, that's fine, but ivo zviri kuraniwa zviri profitable here. Pa-audit apa, I think pane dambudziko. If you get 3 years dzine ma-adverse reports, ma-opinions anenge akupiwa, it's a signal yokuti either ma-skills acho mashoma kana kuti pane zviri kuitika. Chii chamuri kuita kuti muzvicorrect?
My questions are directed to the auditor. He said he gave the adverse report. It was based because they had not audited 2019. What caused them not to audit 2019 books? And can that be an excuse to give an adverse report because they did not do their work? The second question is, he said the exchange rate that was used, in their view, it was not correct exchange rate. I believe that the division, SID, provides an official exchange rate which is used within our territory. Are they saying that exchange rate that are provided by the division, and I would want to believe that the conference applies that exchange rate. They are disputing the exchange rate that is provided by their organization. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank the CFO and the auditor for their presentations. The first thing, I've got only 2 items. The first thing is about the CMS, which is sort of lacking some concrete evidence and standardized subsidiary work by the treasurers at churches. Some churches just have a small book like this one, which is just written amounts of money that are coming in. So when they deposit the money, it's very possible for a carnal human being to deposit less than what has been received. So I think there is supposed to be a mechanized system which can be used in order to track how the funds are coming in and out, or maybe to incorporate many people to see the amounts that have come into the system, into the coffers, such that we reduce pilferage and fraud. Then the other thing is, when we want to do anything in this world, anything you want to do, whether you are not a church or you are in the government or whatsoever institution, there are 3 things that are required. You require time to do those things, number 1. Number 2, you require people to do those things. Then number 3, you require money. Those are the 3 concrete things of which I want to talk about money. Do we have a system of improving our financial base widening in the church system, especially when we are looking at the members inside the church, such that we improve the coffers that will be coming to the conference? Because as I am seeing right now, man answers everything, as the Bible says. And if we don't have money, that's why we are lagging behind in terms of building our churches, in terms of financing our projects, in terms of having our pastors being remunerated quite well, improving in all the facets. So I'm saying we want money. We want money at churches, so that we also build. We want money as people, so that even those outside, they will see that we believe and we pray to a Jesus who has the money. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few issues, but time will limit. But one of the issues is the business interests. I think it's a very commendable step that the conference has taken, and may the Lord continue to bless you. However, there's a few issues that might safeguard us from getting school fees losses, as you refer to it. I'm interested to know who's in charge of managing these business interests. The farming, do we have a skilled farmer? The people who are in charge of construction, is there someone who has run that business before? Are there people who know how to sell those things? Because if we read counsel, Christian leadership, it clearly states that when it comes to business, the church should appoint tried and tested, experienced businessmen and not have people who are responsible for other areas. We need technocrats to run businesses, to avoid the losses that we have sustained. So that's one main point. It might help us to get skilled people in those areas to avoid losses. While still on that area, have we thought of ways of value adding to our produce that comes from our institutions, like your maize, your soybeans? It's possible to add value to these things instead of just selling them raw like that. And then the next point is on the audited statements. we live in a hyperinflationary environment. To the auditor, is there anything else besides the inflation issue that may cause the adverse effect? Because it's not only the church that is facing this issue, even quoted companies on the stock exchange are facing this issue where management is saying, look, Zim dollars don't make anything, but the auditors are insisting that it has to be done according to international accounting standards, which may not be practical at this time. My time limits me. Let me end there.
Maswera seisangano. Ini ndine nyaya mbiri. Yekutanga ndeyekuti munomboziva here ma-properties e-conference mumisha umu. Zvakafanana nemachechi kuti iri papi, iri kuvakwa iri pastage ipi. Nekuti inenge ichitonzeka Seventh Day Adventist Church and property e-conference. Hakuna member ichatora chechi yokuenda nayo kumba kwayo. You don't even know. Ndopa example, tiri muchikanga. Chikanga East Church is housed under a land iri kunzi ichikanga community center. The conference doesn't know about it, doesn't care. Izvozvi lisi iri kupera gore rinouya. Tinogona kutotorerwa land iyoyo kana kuti yogurwa yopiwa vamwe kunzi muri kutadza kuita sei kuvaka. We only managed kungoraise the whole church, pastors quarters nechi pane zvakawanda zviripo zvinofanira kuvakwa ipapo, but conference tiri kukumbira ipapo kuti dai maita take note yekuziva kuti ma-properties ari mumisha umu akamira sei mobatsirawo. Then two, ndoda kuzivawo kuti ma-receipt book anotengeswa. Kosei muchipa church receipt book 1 zvobva zvati yapiwa receipt book 1 pane painombonzi receipt book yakapera iri kumirira kuti izouya. Ini ndinogara kwana Samanyika, ndagara nawo kwenguva yakareba, though ndisiri Samanyika. Vana Samanyika zvinhu zvikangova vanongoita inonzi passive resistance. Moona nemari hadzichauyi. Ko munodii kupa chechi ma-receipt book 2 kuti rimwe rikapera parinouya kwamuri vanosara vachinyora pane rimwe. Kasiripi kaya. Uyezve mari inofanira kunyorwa paya, minimum yayo imari, dollar harinyorwi here.
Toda kutenda. Dati nane report yatawana. Yangu nyaya yasimuka pandanzwa nyaya ye 1% ye evangelism. Zvandibata. Chaona kuti isisu sesangano nyaya yedu isisu ndiyo kuevangeliza vanhu. Now 1% yo muchaona kuti izvo haina zvainokwanisa kunyatsokutiitira sesangano. Muchaona kuti pagore kunogona kureizwa kunzi izvo kwaitwa evangelism kutomboti kuchipinge ndokwaitwa evangelism, ko kumwe kwese zvakamira sei. So muchaona kuti semuono wangu ndewekutiwo dei taigona kureiza mariyo from 1% maybe to 2 or to 3% kuitira kuti in every district pagore se-conference ibatsire kuvawo one evangelism ingaitwawo mu-district rimwe chete. Then tiri papo futi chaona kuti infrastructure is part of evangelism. Chaona kuti tikatarisa pama-churches andanzwa zvokuti akabatsirwa anogona kunge ari ma-churches evanhu vane influence kana kuti evanhu vane zvavanotita sei nai vane zvavanotowana. But tochienda kumwose kwatinogarawo kumakona kwakawanda tiri zviseko nenyaya yekuti vanhu variko hatisi kukwanisa kuvaka ma-churches nenyaya yekuti mari yedu inobatika kangani kamwe pagore kuti tikwanise kuvaka. So tiri kuremerwa. Saka chikumbiro changu ndechekuti icho kana zvadaro tareisa percentage yedu taigonawo futi kuti izvo at least one church per district infrastructure yedu yoita sei yosimukira. Ndine chimwe chemo futi chokuti icho nemenzazo kudunhu kwangu kwandinobva muchaona kuti tine imba yamufundisi yakanaka zvisingaiti.
Time yenyu yapera.
Ndokumbira chipeseva.
Nekuti zvizhinji zvamataura ndaona madzokorodza zvimwe zvambenge zvataurwa.
Alright.
Tinotenda.
Tinotenda. My first observation ndekuti ndaikumbira maybe ma presentation edu ndoziva kuti takaisa muchirungu. But can we try to tone down so that the rest understand? Zvinobetserawo wese tiringotaura nema-adverse opinion, but reality, vazhinji hatizonzwisisi. No first point. Allow me to acknowledge Chikas and the CFO for the reports. But ndangokumbira kuwana clarification kana kuti kuwana tsanangudzo pamataura nenyaya actual nebudget. Pane pandabata sekuti pane figures are up to September. Budget renyu, is it prorated to that? Mukatibatsirawo ipapa kuti tinatsoona kuti variance yedu iribva papi. Then no detailed sekutaura kwazvaitwa inobetserawo kuti tione kuti zvakamira sei. Then pama salaries, staff overheads yenyu kauti yamapresenter muno model here yekuti what should it be, so that we know kuti have you done an overrun or not. Izvozvo zvinobetsera kuti musangano unofambe zvakaita sei zvakanaka. Ndingangoti I think because the rest has been mentioned, I will stop there.
Thank you.
Pa infrastructure handina kunzwawo pachitaurwa nenyaya I know ma solar panels akaiswa kudhara, but I don't see them. I don't know whether they are in use. If they are not in use, what is the problem? It's part of a infrastructure, a financial balance sheet, but we don't seem to see it working. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you. You can give the next person. This is now Messi, because you are supposed to be the last person.
Yeah,
but Messi.
Thank you so much. Yeah, inindi nemubvunzo wandoda kubvunza. Ndofunga kubva muna July takambotaurwa nawo yema-tractors. Ndobva yazotaurwa August. Ndobva yazotaurwa ezvinezvi. My question is, ma-tractors aya ndeedu here? Ari kuda kuzouya panguva ipi? Ndo mubvunzo wekutanga. Kana tikange tapiwa, hapana chaachazoda kuzoti ari kuda here munhu ari kutipa wacho. Nekuti tikange chida kutarisa penge muri kuripota as a professional farmer, mataura nawo yema-losses akaitwa kana kuti yesoyabheans nekudii. For your own information, planta yesoyabheans yagara iri kwanowanika maplanta yemasoyabheans ndizvoka. And the roadmap yesuccess ya every farmer is land preparation. But land preparation yacho inoitwa ezvinezvi. And takamirira ma-tractors iwaya kuti aita sei auye. Saka tikazoita time yapera tinotadza kuita sei kuita ma-profits. Ndo zvenge ndoda kungobvunza.
Thank you.
Mazvita nekunditenderawo. Ndine mubvunzo wekuti conference mutiudzewo kuti zvakachipa ndezvipi kana kuti chinodhura ndo chakanaka. 2000 ndabva muno mutauni kuenda kumusha, ndakasvika paive na Pastor Parangeta. Pastor Parangeta akasevhawo mayezi akaenda. Pakauya Pastor Mike. Pastor Mike akasevha mayezi akaenda. Pakauya Pastor Musamindo akasevha mayezi akaenda. Pakauya Pastor Mangwiro akasevha mayezi akaenda.
Muchapedza here?
Ndiri kupedza.
Yeah.
Pakauya Pastor Made akasevha mayezi akaenda. Pakauya Pastor Mutari Chiwawa akasevha mayezi akaenda. Izvo zvitina Pastor Garai Maroja vari kungobuda. Maroja iyaye vari kutenga property akaenda kurojerwa mune imwe room iyoyo property yake masofa hakwani, akuda kutsvaga pane another big room. Saka inini ndakanga ndasuggesta kuti mayadhi edu ane machurches, mayadhi akakurisa, tinogona kuti conference tivakirewo imba yamufundisi totsvaga pari central panongoti mafundisi vese vanenge vauya vanogara ipapo. Ndakazwa zuro muchiti makatoemploya another 35. Saka 35 vacho vanenge vachigara kupi? Varamba ngori maroja here? Mukatarisa neuita hwapasita garai kuti angozi muroja so. Hayo hazvifanirwi kudaro. Conference risada.
Chairman ari kuti rovai maoko. You see, thank you, my elder. Pawataka utara mazita emabasa ndati zvinoachapedza here. Because anga wanda. But I thank you for that and telling us kwazvakatangira nepazvava. Tichapindura nekuedza kuona kuti zvinodini. Thank you so very much. We appreciate our CFO. We are checking whether our lunch is ready, because we may then say, let's go for lunch, and then we come and answer the question later. Pastor Timuri? All right. Okay, what we'll do for now, just check for me, Pastor Mangwiro, if Pastor Timuri is around, so that we are informed whether our lunch is ready. But for now, I think I can give our CFO to try and go through some of the recommendations as I've seen them, and some are questions. Thank you.
Okay, with chine zvekuita ne audit report yedu, you realize when the auditor put in the summary, there was 2020, 2021, and then 2022. Ku accounts ndo kunoshanda, I think the legal people know, kunonzi mosha irovi. Kana paine zvinhu zvakanga zvakanganisika kumashure, zvino affecta zviripo parizvi. So the non-standard part is coming from non-compliance in the previous periods. If you look at our 2020, panga paine adverse ne disclaimer, iri non-standard. But if you look at our 2021 and our 2022, pazoita adverse ne non-standard. So it shows that we are taking a step in the right direction. And then there are other things that are causing the adverse, which we do not have control over. As an example, the exchange rates. SID gives us exchange rates once a month, normally, which is the last exchange rate of the month. As we are aware, kuti exchange rate yemunyika iri kuchinja on a weekly basis, if not on a daily basis at times. So these are some of the things that are affecting us. And then you also look at the pricing models in terms of purchasing. Tine rate yemu system, but when you go and buy, you are given another rate. So which rate is correct? And I think through our auditors, we are also engaging them through our union and our division to say, how best can we find each other? The simplest thing we can do is also to dollarize our financial statements. But remember, as a country, we are in a multi-currency situation. So how do we dollarize our financials? And then maybe after a few weeks, we then change again. I think maybe in summary, that's what I would say. And then these financials that you have, they are not consolidated. This is simply East Zimbabwe Conference only. These are the financials that we have. And then I also had, there was a comment on the issue of why Harare for pastors' houses. The idea was, at least if they get one property, even if they decide to then go to the rural areas, they will still be getting some income from that property. And the property is in a prime place, so which means the rental that they are going to be getting from that area will be able to sustain their livelihood. I'm sure if our retirees would also acknowledge, our retirement plan is for survival. It will not enable you to do other things, but if they are able to get some income from a property that they have in Harare, then it will also help to augment that. And then I also, there was one for the 1%. Remember what I highlighted, I said the 40% is not for EZC. 40% inoenda kumsoro union division ne general conference. So kwavari pavanowana 40% iya vanoti 1% ndoye evangelism. I'm sure we are well aware kuti everything that we do as a conference is evangelistic in nature. Chero salary ya pastor evangelism. So we are not putting just a bit in evangelism. Fine, we went to Chipinge, we also did evangelism, but you also heard that there are evangelistic campaigns that have been happening through our evangelists. And then there was the issue of our assets. I think our financials include our assets, and maybe we'll also take note of the recommendations that came that we should start deliberately giving you more information. And then the employee-related expenditure. According to our policy, we are allowed to use up to 50% of our gross tithe to be able to address employee-related activities.
Thank you. I'm sure our lunch is ready. It's now at the serving points, but we'll give the auditor just to summarize a bit. Then Nyasha will continue later after that. Thank you. You can come up.
Okay, trakutenda. Pane mibvunzo yabvunzwa yakanangana na auditor, asi inenge imwe yacho haine na auditor. Okay. Zvakadaro ndichaipindura. Pana nchitaura apo. Imwe mibvunzo yamabvunza nanadoipindura kudhara. Okay. So pane mubvunzo wabvunzwa kuti anapoenda jikazi ndiani muri independent here. Amushando zvanatanga nazvo kuzvipindura izvozvo. Kuti isusu kunyange tiri ma-Adventist hatisiri part ye-management, we are not part of management. Ndikataura kuti we are over 300 auditors, professionals from 45 countries. So what happens is, kana toda unoaudita EZC, kunogona kutobva wano kuZambia, wotosvika kuaudita kuti EZC. For example, wakakuauditai wakabva South Africa, and there is a way wasina kutoyawo panapa, inyaya kuti the other one is late now. He's the one who audited them. So that maybe I'm the one who is available to stand in for him. But otherwise, we are independent. We are appointed by the EXCOM. We are the preferred auditor for General Conference, for the church. We are the preferred auditor for the church. So we are, I emphasize, we are independent of the organization. Every year we disclose that fact, and it's also disclosed in our opinion, right? Mukatasa opinion yaminayo, pane pakanzi basis of advice. Kwekupesa kwacho kukoko, we disclosed that fact. Very clear on it? Okay. Then pane imwe mvunzo ngede kuti is it internal or external? Is that avoidable or unavoidable? This is now on the part of you, the users of the report. It's also peritaita to express an opinion on the financial statements. That is exactly what we're supposed to be doing as auditors. So, panengwe delegate yazotaura ikati, even in the private sector, ndo zviriko saka mubvunzo wapindura izvo, but I don't want to comment on that one. Isu takaita pedu to express an opinion on the financial statements. Then there is also another question about why not auditing 2019. Is it that excuse, the disclaimer that you express, the disclaimer in 2020, is it an excuse for you to not audit 2019? The reason why we disclaim the opinion is we were not engaged audit 2019. So article we express an opinion panobuka sakuona pama process tambo tarono dwa I6 yekutanga is to agree with the client, right? So we did not engage, we were not engaged audit 2019. Okay, then the last one, it had to do with exchange rates, to say the church uses SID exchange rates. These SID exchange rates, they are well, our understanding, we also look at those exchange rates. They are In our view, they are set after the manner of RBZ. So those arrays we are saying, in our view, they are not accurate, and they are not. So we, and also SID, we say evidence from internal source is not what? Okay. So it's also, we insist that our opinion is appropriate and the basis is also appropriate. Our basis, okay, this last thing that I want to explain. Our basis is not an excuse, right? Our basis is not also justification. It is a basis of our opinion. I hope that's an
Then there was one question on receipt books. Receipt books are not for sale, anopiwa vanhu vese vanomada. Asi mukacherechedza nesystem yatiri kuuya nayo ACMS, we are actually reducing the use of receipt books. And hapana value or amount inorambirwa kuiswa pa receipt book. Whatever amount is given by a child of God, it has to be receipted, and that person has to be given a receipt.
Thank you. Thank you, Elder Nyasha. We now need to go for our lunch. It's ready. So I think we will come back immediately after lunch and then we continue and then we will then vote for the report. Thank you. We need to pray before we leave. Kindly, I know we are hungry now, but I will ask that we have Pastor Garwe come up front and then you pray. And then we go for lunch. Pamurukuna mata, mbamango na matira, nechikafu chese chatichadya. I think zvinenge zvikuita sekunge patichabuda, we will collect ma tickets kubva pa madozi papo patiri tichinda tokwanisa kubata piwa ma ticket edu. Thank you. All right.
Ngati na mate baba wedu toda kumtendai panguwa ine atakubuda tichenda ku lunch daimga umukomborera wagadzira nesu tichatora tigokwanisa kushandirai tiri mukati mekuguta. Tinotenda meeting dzichiri kuendera pamberi, iwai munotungamira pane zvose. Tinonamata nekutenda kuburikidza nezita raJesu. Amen.